My dear compatriots, once again I appeal to you to show prudence and not to succumb to provocations from within and outside the euphoria of rallies and permissiveness. Calls to attack civilian and military officers are completely illegal. It is a crime that will be punished. Power will not fall. But what we need is not conflict but mutual trust and dialogue. All legitimate requests and demands on your part will be carefully considered and appropriate decisions will be made. There will be a working meeting on all these issues.
All right, let's discuss this further with Ben Aris. He's the editor-in-chief of BNE IntelliNews and joins us from Berlin. So, Ben, give us a little background on this. How long has dissatisfaction been simmering in Kazakhstan over high fuel prices in an oil-rich country?
Indeed, it's a bit bizarre, isn't it? But the oil business is run by the states, they own companies and exported. And you have a very top-heavy economy in so much as the former president's family dominate that business, and not that much money is being trickling down. This problem actually broke out at the weekend in the city of Zanaorzin, which is an oil-rich city. But there, the prices of this LPG, this liquefied petroleum gas, which the majority of people use to run their cars, the prices were just liberalized and tripled almost overnight. And protests broke out there, and now they've spread across the whole country. And last night, it accelerated, spreading to both Nur Sultan, the capital, and particularly Almaty, which is the commercial capital, the biggest city in the country, to what unprecedented. We haven't seen this size demonstrations for years. And it got very violent. The government very quickly clamped down on it in order to nip the problem in the bud.
Yeah, I was just about to say that to you. I mean, how surprised were you to see these protests of this magnitude and across the country, as well as the government responding so quickly, not only in cracking down, as you mentioned, but all of a sudden the government's gone, there's an acting prime minister. I mean, clearly the president was worried. This seemed to rattle him as well.
Yeah, I just talked to our correspondent in Almaty, and he said that in Almaty, the protest sort of came out of nowhere, and the government APCs and riot police into the city last night, flashbangs, tear gas, 200 people arrested, and it has a violent nature too, in so much as there were calls to attack the mayor's office, several police cars were burned. But you have to understand the context. I mean, there's been various revolutions in Ukraine, obviously, and then more recently in Belarus. And so everyone's on tenterhooks. But in Central Asia, about a year ago in Kyrgyzstan, there was a similar protest, and that overthrew the government in under a week. And the difference between the Belarusian protests and the Central Asian ones is the Central Asian ones are violent. They attack government buildings, take over the presidential palace, and the people in power can be ousted in a matter of days. And that's what they're afraid of, is that the crowds will swell and they'll attack the government buildings, and that they'll end up, ousted and on trial for corruption or what have you. So the motivation here is to act very quickly. They've introduced a state of emergency. They've introduced price caps on this LPG. They've taken the price back down to less than it was. There's a whole raft of things the president came out with last night. Personal bankruptcy law, going to freeze utility prices, going to freeze or control consumer good prices. So basically, they're throwing a lot of money at this in order to undo the complaints.
Yeah, I find what's so remarkable is in a country where you think of the state as, in general, having all the power, it's like now the president is saying, okay, well, we're going to do all of these things, clearly stating that the protesters have quite a bit of power to make changes when it seems necessary.
Yeah, I mean, the situation in Almaty has calmed down now somewhat. They've been moved out of the Republic Square, the center of the city, and the city of Almaty has been locked down in so much as you can't get in and out. And the idea there is to stop what is largely working class people from coming in to join the protests. But the protests are continuing this morning. Our reporter was saying you can still hear flashbangs, you can still hear police driving around, and the protests have moved into the southern half of the city, which is largely a working class residential area. So there remains a danger that the protests haven't been quelled and that they will push back again today, and it will run out of control like it did in Kyrgyzstan. But it shows the government's not entirely in control. As I say, it's a sort of corrupt oligarchic system where the old president handed over to the new one. And the people, the working class people, don't get a look in at the prosperity that Kazakhstan has thanks to its copious amounts of oil.
Yeah, very interesting story to watch. Ben, always great to talk to you.